What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Mets PostGame Show with myself and CP. How is everybody doing today? And Mets fans, we got a win where we could breathe easy today. 9-1 victory to end the series in Colorado, win a series in Colorado as we head to Seattle for a couple of games. And guess what, guys? The New York Mets are back in a wild card spot as the Braves got a beatdown they got beat down by the Brewers, and now the New York Mets are in a wild card spot yet again. And this was an all-around very well-played game for the New York Mets, offensively, pitching, defense. Everything worked out for the Mets today as they beat a very bad Rockies team and take a series against the Rockies. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. I could not be better right now, especially with such an easy and smooth game from our New York Mets. I talked about it in the pregame show. I know you weren't there. I held it down for the both of us that I didn't care what the score was going to be today. And I'm not sure if Easy's in the chat right now, but he said, I just want a great, easy win. And that's exactly what the New York Mets delivered. Everybody contributing. This is what you love. And a great homecoming start from Mr. David Peterson. I know many people are still infuriated that he didn't go 6+ innings. I'm not one of those people. I'm sure we'll talk about it. I'm not one of those people. But what an electric victory. This is a statement victory.
Yep.
And it's really not a statement to the rest of the league. It's a statement for the New York Mets fan base to shut their mouths and let the New York Mets play baseball. And I love it. Let's get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, it's like the Mets fans have to be proven to themselves that they want to be believers than the media who believes in his team, the team believes in themselves. And just around baseball, teams are coming in, worried about the Mets facing them. And it seems like Mets fans are the only ones that are being negative with this organization. And fan base just loves to be negative when they don't really need to be. It is baseball. We all know teams lose against other teams, bad or good. It's just how it goes. And today it was a no doubter, right? It was obvious. The first inning, Pete Alonso coming up big, Lindor, Vientos, everybody played well. And I do want to give a shout out to Pete Alonso today, who I think, in my opinion, had probably his best at-bats of the season. It wasn't just the home runs that, everybody wants to go crazy about. It was the way he approached the at-bats and the swings, the leveled swings, the compact swings. He's strong enough to hit the ball out. You don't need to swing for the fences every single time. He had a more compact swing. He was taking more of the sliders. He had a couple of strikeouts, but it was basically when the game was over and he did his damage. He was staying back on the sliders that he's been, flailing and being out in front of. And this is probably the best bunch of at-bats I've seen Pete Alonso have all season. And listen, I said it in the group chat. How great would it be for the last 50 games of the season, Pete Alonso just goes crazy? And he's deserved all this criticism. He deserved it with his play and his stupid comments the other day. But I said this over and over again. There is nothing more I want for him to shut me up and have everybody in the comment section kill me if Pete Alonso has a great last 50 games. Because it means the Mets are probably doing well. Because this is the one guy in this lineup that hasn't carried the team all season. And this team needs a little bit of a carry from somebody else other than Lindor, Nimmo, Martinez, and Vientos. Or Iglesias and Bader or Tyrone Taylor, who, we talk about guys that have been DFA'd by Stearns, and especially guys like Hauser, who he brought in here. Tyrone Taylor has been absolutely amazing for this team. And the good news is that he might not be done, because you said this in the pregame. If you don't get the job done, somebody will replace you to get the job done. And that was another stupid comment by Ottavino about him being tone deaf as well with his performance. He might be an odd man out as well. But the big key here is that not only is teammates picking up other teammates when they're not doing well, this team just has a different type of vibe. I know it was bad losing the first game, and people were mad. How can you lose to the Rockies like they never watched baseball in their life? The fact of the matter is, you win series you will put yourself in a position to where the Mets are right now, and that is the third wild card spot. And by the way, guys, the Braves have officially fell out of the wild card spot. I know that's only a half a game, can't go crazy, but this is a situation where they were about 10 games up at one point in the wild card, in the first wild card. Like they were riding high. They were, coasting through the season. And now, even after the trade deadline, they brought in Soler, they brought in Rosario. Now they cut him. And, with Duvall, they were trying to bring that 2021 vibes back after the Acuna injury. And they're falling apart. And again, what I talked about with the Atlanta Braves, I'm sorry I'm going on, Chris, but about the Atlanta Braves series when they were, a game and a half behind the Braves when they were fit coming into that series. Now this has become a road trip of great importance. We got after the Seattle, we got I know the homestand, but we got the Padres and the Diamondbacks this month, which are going to be huge series now, considering how well both of those teams played. And if the Mets continue to play well and they're going to face a Seattle team that can really pitch, but hasn't shown much offense even after the moves they made offensively at the trade deadline, the Mets have a great opportunity here to do what they had to do to get to the point of facing these teams that are going to be a very important series, a couple of series coming up. And it starts after the Seattle series and the homestand. We got some action going on here where the New York Mets could really do some damage in this wild card stand-ins with the teams they're facing. So I'm excited, and I'm so glad they performed the way they played today. And it was a beatdown. It wasn't a close game. So Met fans can calm down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're getting your perspective here. I know you've been gone for a couple of days. First of all, I have a couple of things here, right? We could talk about wild card. We will talk about the wild card. Obviously, the Braves are falling off a cliff right now. Anything can happen as it's only August 8th. But I want to shout out to the chat. Shout out to Pure Adrenaline Sports, everybody coming over from PAS. Shout out to you all, everybody that's been rocking with us. And shout out to Nelson, Amish Country Mets fan, in the chat here, asking us, why are we still talking about this team? The X application told me the season was over the other day. Shout out to Nelson. Hope you've been good. And glad to see you talking Mets baseball again. So salute to you. But this is my face right now. My jaw's dropping because I hope that you all in the chat are cherishing this moment. Pete Alonso has gotten some high praise from Rob on stream. When was the last time we have heard that? When is the last time we've heard that? Let's clap it up for Rob, guys.
Hey, listen.
For Rob.
Before you finish up what you're saying, Chris, this is what I want to do. Like, this is not something that I want to criticize Pete Alonso just for clicks and views. He deserves the criticism, so he deserves credit when credit's due.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I only say that in kind of a joking way because everybody on here probably knows about the Pete Alonso rants, especially that we have here on stream. And listen, Pete Alonso, a guy that's definitely going to need to snap out of it, right, for the long haul, more than just this game, in order for this Mets offense to be a glimpse of that top 10 offense that they've been this entire season. Listen, when everybody was panicking after the Angels took the series from the New York Mets just 3 days ago, I posted on my X account myself. I said, guys, listen, are we forgetting about the fact that the New York Mets are top 10 in every single offensive category in 2024? That includes in every situation with runners in scoring position and just general statistics. Home runs, top 5. OBP, top 10. Slugging, top 10. Runners in scoring position, RBIs, top 10. You can go up and down the list. Any single baseball statistic that you want to point out, the Mets are probably top 10 in the offensive category. Yeah. So I realize that they have been struggling with runners in scoring position since July 14th, and you don't want to see that stretch, that cold stretch, continue and extend itself, especially in the midst of a wild card run. But it's games like today that prove to me and should prove to the rest of the fan base that this offense, when they do snap out of it, they are a force to be reckoned with.
Yep.
Right? And we saw it for a couple consecutive months to get them back into the race after being down 11 games or 11 games under 500. I know, everybody in here probably knows what this Mets offense is capable of. So it's infuriating to us to watch them fail with runners in scoring position consistently. But at the end of the day, there is so much firepower within this offense. So much firepower within this offense. And I'm so proud of these guys for regrouping. They won a tough game and rallied late last night in the 9th inning. And they come around here in the matinee action to win a series and go on to face a tough team, like you said, in the Seattle Mariners. So proud of this team. This is a tremendous victory. And we have a whole bunch of topics to talk about here, Rob.
Yep.
I don't know if you know this, but we got to talk about Ottavino and his comments. We got to talk about the bullpen and the reinforcements coming. But let's just talk about David Peterson for one hot second. David Peterson has put together a tremendous season thus far. For a starting pitcher 4 or starting pitcher 5, I'm regurgitating what I said in the pregame show. He has exceeded well beyond the set expectations that were in place for him ever since he came off the IL this season. Exceeded it, bar none.
Yep.
And I understand when you get to a wild card series, you're not thinking about David Peterson being as one of your starters in a 3-game set, understood. But you need performances like today and performances like his last time out.
Yep.
From him, from Paul Blackburn, from this pitching rotation in general that not many people had confidence in to open up this season. And I will say, I will be fair to everybody. I was kind of like, Severino, I like Manaya. He has high upside, but where are we going to piece together the rest of the rotation? And they've proved me wrong as well. So we have to show immense love and give the proper flowers to this rotation and to this bullpen on the pitching side of things for holding it down when the offense comes and goes. I have to just say that. But obviously today was all about the offense.
Yeah, the pitching has been outstanding. Like, they went through a little bit of a low spot, during this season, but they've been the most consistent, right? When the bullpen was slacking, the starting pitcher was still there. Yes, the length that they've been going was an issue, but they've been the most consistent the entire year. Over 115 games, they've been the most consistent. Like, we ranked the parts of the team that we thought was going to be, from 1 to 3, we thought, the offense was going to do what the offense does. I'm concerned about the starting, and the bullpen was supposed to be pretty good, right? It was supposed to be offense 1, bullpen 2, starting pitching 3 as our most concerning, and the most concerning was the starting pitching. It basically flipped, right? The most concerning throughout this season has been the offense for the most part, and then, they came alive over the last couple of months. But yeah, David Peterson, we talked about David Peterson, prior to his injury, that a lot of Mets didn't even want him on this team. And he's been one of our most consistent starters as well. We talk about the Mets record with Alvarez in the lineup. What about the Mets record with David Peterson on the mound? That's how good David Peterson has been. And I know people want him to go 6 innings, but we have to remember, he coming back from injury. We're trying to save these guys going deeper into the season, right? We're in the early parts of August. We still got basically 2 months of baseball left. You got to keep these guys healthy. We've been talking about Severino when it comes to his innings limits and hasn't pitched this much since 2018. And Manaya, the same thing. He was in the bullpen a little bit last year, so he hasn't thrown this many innings as well. You got to keep these guys healthy. So if you got a lead like the Mets had, why not take out David Peterson and save some innings, save some bullets for later in the season when you're going to need them to go a little deeper? And, use the back ends of the bullpen. Danny Young might be off this team in a few days with the reinforcements that Chris is talking about with Garrett and Foley. These are situations here when Mendoza finally had an opportunity to save some pitches and innings from a starting pitcher that the Mets haven't really gave him an option to do very often because they've been playing so many close games. So kudos to David Peterson. Once again, another really good start. When he pitches, the Mets win. Like, regardless, I mean, he has been getting the most run support as a pitching staff. He's getting a lot of run support, but that's the Mets only do it for Peterson. They don't give a lot of run support to a lot of the starting staff. And they got to work very, very hard to maintain the game and keep the team in the ball game so the offense can come through later in the ball game. Chris, we don't talk about it enough, or at least, most people don't talk about it enough, is that keeping your team in a ball game has been not talked about and not praised enough in baseball when it comes to starting pitching. Like, starting pitching mostly goes 5 1/3, right? That's the average in baseball. The key now is to keep your team in a ball game when that starter leaves. And I think the Mets probably have done that better than most teams in baseball. Now, I haven't looked at the stats, haven't looked at the overall, statistics with that, but it seems that way watching a lot of games in baseball, and especially the Mets every day. I see it as keep your team in a ball game, and it comes down to your offense and your bullpen, which mostly what baseball is now. Pitch 5 innings, keep your team in the ball game, and leave it to your offense and the bullpen. And the Mets have been doing that for the most part this year.
I've said this throughout this entire season, Rob. This rotation is not set up to dominate and overpower you. They're not going to give you consistent 7, 8 innings. And quite frankly, you're not going to get that from many starting pitchers in today's baseball game. Like you said, in today's MLB, you are not going to get that. So why, with a rotation that doesn't have the big time names, are we expecting that? Yep. This bullpen is elite. It's elite. Like we'll talk about the bullpen here in just a second, because at full strength, this Mets bullpen is a top 3 bullpen in the league. And I think a lot of people are underestimating this Mets bullpen. They are set up, and David Stearns has set up, even with the debacle of suspensions, DFAs, of injuries that has gone on with his bullpen, David Stearns still has them as a top 3 bullpen on paper, and they are built to withstand starting pitchers not being able to get into the 6th inning. So when I hear and see people complaining in this fan base about David Peterson not going 6 innings, whoever, Manaya, Severino, it doesn't really matter who your name is in this rotation. All I'm asking for you is to not walk the ballpark, limit the damage, and the bullpen, I have enough trust in to take care of the rest, and hopefully from there, the offense gets it done. Today, the offense gets it done early and often, and that's what it is. And yes, M-Easy, they are elite. I'm tired of you trying to push back on that. They are elite, 100%. 100%. I will stand 10 toes on that statement. They are elite. Like, there's no other way around it. That's it.
Yeah, and it's amazing the turnaround of this bullpen, because with the injuries that we've had, the DFAs, like you said, like it's all come full circle, right? Stearns had to fix this bullpen on the fly, and it wasn't because of just bad performances. It was because of injuries, mostly. That was a major concern, and suspensions that had to make Stearns go out and get Maton, Stanek, Brazoban, right? These are guys that are going to be in the depths of your bullpen, that are going to be bridging the gap to Diaz. And we forget, or at least we don't forget, we don't talk about it enough. Maton and Stanek, right? These are 2 guys that have a ton of postseason experience, ton of big game experience. This is something that I've talked about with this New York Mets team that always concerned me. They never had enough guys that have postseason experience or big game experience. Then that we were expecting these guys that have no experience in big games or postseason experience to come through, or at least believe that they can come through, until we actually see it. Now we got guys that are bridging a gap in this bullpen to Diaz that have a ton of postseason and big game experience, and it's not talked about enough. And I think that it's going to we're going to talk about it more and more when it gets closer and closer to the end of the season, when these guys are pitching in big innings. And look, elite is probably, I would say just a tad under, but they've been pretty damn good. Look at the numbers, easy.
I'm saying elite. I'm saying
They've been
elite.
they've
I
been
got it back then.
extremely good, right? Better than most people expected. And look, if you look at a lot of bullpens around the league, they've had a lot of the same names. When you have to change your bullpen with basically an entire shifting of a roster when it comes to bullpen because of injuries and DFAs, that's not easy to do. And then still maintain a winning culture, winning of games, and still having basically better numbers than what they had in the previous months is something to look for. And yeah, easy. They've been improving. But if you look at the numbers, it has been pretty good. And considering the way bullpens have been, I mean, have you watched the Pirates, a team that's still trying to stay in this? Their bullpen is absolutely atrocious. So the bullpen, I think, has gotten better than what it was. I think it's probably more stacked than what it was coming into this season with Diekman, with Ottavino, with Diaz, with Riley, right? All these guys, with Brooks Raley and all those guys, that half of them are not, Ottavino could be off this team in a few days. Like what we went into the season with bullpen wise, it's almost completely different. You might see in big moments, Brazaban and Maton and Stanek. And oh, by the way, we haven't even talked about Budo yet. Oh, we haven't talked about Nunez, who will be coming back as well. Like, this is a bullpen that I don't want to face coming into a big game. That's going to be tough going because we've talked about Stanek and Maton and Brazaban and Diaz. But Jose Butto, where I know you talked about in the pregame that you want him to get into this rotation, I don't agree with that because I still trust Severino. I think they need to skip one of his. I know it's going to be tough. Skip one of his starts. Get him right because he's been lagging a little bit, and that's because of the innings. He hasn't pitched that many since 2018. I don't know if I want Budo because he's been so damn good in the bullpen that I think he's more of a necessity and probably, more of a necessity in his bullpen than in the rotation. But I know we're going to disagree on that, but I do think that Jose Butto, because he's probably one of the elite arms in the bullpen in baseball. What he has, under a 1 ERA, was it 0.85 ERA? That is elite. I don't know if I want to mess with that and stretch him out a little bit more just for him to pitch 5 innings, which he might be pretty damn good at. But I like Budo in the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we are going to disagree on that because
Okay.
I definitely would love to have Jose Butto back in the starting rotation. And like you said, Severino's coming up on his innings, I guess not even limit. We're just talking about innings in general over the last couple of years of his career, right? That he hasn't really pitched. You have the ability to kind of stretch him out over, I guess, an extra rest day. Jose Quintana, also 36, 37 years old right now. I think that he, just given with his age and amount of innings that he's pitched this season, could use an extra rest day. And then David Peterson as well. I think that he can also benefit from an extra rest day with how good he's been. We don't want to see him fall off a cliff either. So I would 100% mess with that mojo and take my chances with it. I will say, because I really don't think that, like, I say that, but I don't think that messing with Jose Butto's mojo is a thing. This guy, regardless in what situation or what role he has on the mound, he's going to pitch exactly with the same energy, the same strategy, and honestly, the same success. So I think, and he's a rare breed around the MLB, like you said, to where that can be the case, and the Mets have the flexibility of doing that. But what I will say is that the Mets bullpen and David Stearns is going to be tasked with a very tough decision upcoming. One, when Reed Garrett gets back this weekend, I think the writing on the wall personally, I know is going to disagree because he's been telling me over the last couple streams I've done, one of those lefties, primarily Danny Young, which is why I think they extended him today, other than just a score, is probably going to be sent down, right?
Correct.
There's no need for 2 lefties in this pen if neither of them are a game changer, which either of the Youngs are not. 2, when Sean Reed Foley comes back, you're going to have to clear another roster spot, right? And that's when Adam Ottavino might have to pack his bags. I understand the flip side of the coin with him performing well over his last 8, 9 appearances, whatever. Look at the situations when this guy has made his way out onto the mound. Mendoza entrusted him in some high leverage situations this season. He crapped the bed, and that is no more. He's coming into 6-run leads or more and still laboring. He threw over 20 pitches today, surrendered a walk and a hit. In what world is Carlos Mendoza or anybody in this Mets organization supposed to trust Adam Ottavino in a huge spot? So if you can't trust him in a huge spot, why would we waste a roster spot on him?
Yeah.
And that's the flip side of the coin to Adam Ottavino's foolish comments and what would seem to be Adam Ottavino's fan club that is apparently over on X. And I hope that they don't make their way into the chat here. I hope there's nobody in this chat that's a huge Adam Ottavino fan. Because listen, if he is on this roster at the end of the day, okay, cool. I get it, veteran presence. I understand he's been with the club for the past 3 years, etc. I get it. But I'm not expecting any sort of contributions in big-time situations from Adam Ottavino. And also in September or whenever that date is, where you go from 13 pitchers allowed, the roster goes from 26 to 28, you get one extra pitcher allowed on your roster from 13 to 14. That's presumably, depending on how far out Daniel Nunez is, that's where he comes into the equation. And that'll be your extra arm. So the way I see it, in a perfect world scenario, this might take a gradual increase to work up because you got 3 guys that are returning from injury and Reed Garrett, Sean Reed Foley, and Daniel Nunez. But the perfect scenario when this bullpen is healthy, Huascar Brazaban gets the 7th inning, Nunez gets the 8th, Diaz gets the 9th, and you move Jose Butto into that rotation. And then you have a combination of whatever lefties on this roster, plus Reed Garrett, plus Sean Reed Foley, plus Ryan Stanek to go into the 6th or even the 5th, depending on what the starter does. That is my perfect scenario for a healthy Mets bullpen. And that's the reason why I think you can extend Jose Butto and put him back into the rotation. Just my 2 cents.
Well, you know what's interesting about that when you just brought up Brazaban, Nunez and Diaz for your 7, 8, and 9. You know what's good about that? If those guys can't go one night, you can just throw Maton and Stanek into that 7, 8 role. You know, if they're not available, so you have options now. When Mendoza really haven't had that, where he would use these elite guys, and then he won't be available for a day or two, and now he has to, pick together. But I do agree with you when it comes to Jose Butto going into the rotation. It's not just you want Jose Butto in the rotation for, kicks and giggles so you can say you were right on the stream. It was more of the fact that you want to give Severino, Minaya, Quintana an extra day, Peterson an extra day.
They've been wanting to go to a 6-man rotation.
When you really think about it, yeah.
Yeah, they've been wanting to go to a 6-man rotation. That was the plan all along. When Senga came back, they were going to do it, but then he got hurt in his debut. So this was the plan all along. So if that was the plan all along with Senga, I can assume that's probably going to be the plan now. Now, I understand they wanted to go to a 6-man with Senga because he was, on the shelf for this whole time. But you know what I mean? If that was the plan all along, it just makes logical sense for them to actually do it. And they have the capacity to do it. And by the way, Ryan Stanek, I don't care what his ERA was. I don't care what the stats were in Seattle when he was there before coming over to the New York Mets. This man's stuff, if you took a look at what he did today, this man's stuff, the off speed, the life on his fastball, you now acquire 2 guys that throw 97 to 98 miles per hour in Brazaban and Stanek in your pen. I'm cooking with that all day long. All day long, Rob.
Yeah, I agree with that. And listen, it's so important to have experience in big games with those guys. And you saw his stuff today. Like, I don't care what they've done on the previous teams, right? Sometimes it's just not a good fit. It might be the manager putting him in spots that he doesn't belong. And, if you find spots, and look, when Maton came over here, right, he was pitching better. But then when he was in the bullpen and when he first came to the Mets, they saw a little bit of what pitch usage he was using too much of, and they lowered that percentage. And they said, throw this pitch more, and it's worked. Same thing with Stanek, right? Sometimes it's just a difference of scenery. It's just where he's pitching in certain spots. Maybe they were misusing him in certain areas with their respected previous team. So it is what it is. The fact of the matter is, and the reason why Chris is so high on this bullpen is that not only is it because of the names that could be that are available, especially when they get healthy, for the 7th and 8th to bridge the Diaz, but we have other options when those guys aren't available for those nights. And that's the thing. Mendoza hasn't had options when his elite pitchers are not available. He had guys like Ottavino, Diekman. Those guys weren't trusted in the circle of trust of Mendoza. Now he can go, wow, I can pick anybody for the 7th and 8th inning with a handful of guys that I can trust now. That's huge for a manager when you have to go to a bullpen and you trust them now. That is huge. And I want to say something with Easy bringing it up in the chat about Seattle. Read a little bit of stats, buddy. Seattle's offense is one of the worst in baseball. Now, they've been good. And oh, by the way, they just lost the division yet again, right? They were leading the division by a good amount of games, and they've been falling apart. Their pitching, you want to talk about elite, their pitching is a pain in the ass. We're going to have a hard time scoring runs in this series. But their offense is just not good. Now, they've got reinforcements at the trade deadline. Their offense can come alive, but Rodriguez is not there. I believe their catcher, Raleigh, I think he just came back from injury. Crawford is injured. So 2 of their better hitters in their lineup is not there. The Mets need to win this series. Like, make no mistake about it. The Mets should beat the Seattle Mariners. Now, on paper, obviously, but we don't play the game on paper. And I know I jumped over because I saw Easy's comment, but the Mariners aren't good offensively. And I don't care what happened with the Angels. I don't care with the Rockies. It has nothing to do with just the numbers against them. Look at the overall month and a half of this bullpen prior to the trade deadline. They were actually pretty good. So, and we talk about good teams. How about good offenses? All right. The Angels' offense is actually better than the Seattle Mariners. The Rockies' offense is better than the Seattle Mariners. So if you're looking at rankings, Easy, I know you don't want to. You don't only look at record, which is silly. The Angels and Rockies actually have better offensive numbers than actually the Braves over the last month and a half, over the Seattle Mariners over the entire season. So it's not just about record when you look at, bad teams. You can have a bad team and still have a team that has good offense, but their pitching might be bad.
Rob, also to add on to that fact with what MEZ saying, this comment, can we see this bullpen against a good team first before we call it good and elite? They just played the Angels and the Rockies. The New York Mets have beaten up on good teams already this season. The frustration that we have is that they are playing these bad teams. So you are contradicting yourself already with that statement. Like, that makes no sense to me. That makes absolutely no sense. So I don't know. All right. Let's not pollute this stream with that. I'm sorry. It's just that's
damn.
just
I thought the negative Pete Alonso talk was going to happen today, but all right, whatever.
No. We're not. No. We're not going there. Listen, Pete. I want to just say, great job to Pete. Both of us have been on his ass about the poor performance, right? Because, like I said, we do not work for SNY. We do not work for the New York Mets. We are not afraid to call out poor play when poor play is happening. That's a very evident fact if you've been a part of my stream or Rob's stream, right? We don't have those ties. We don't make money off of this. That's it. So we're not afraid to call that out and be objective. Yeah. So what I will say, though, is that when you turn in a game like today, you look at the offense going early. Leadoff Lindor, extra base hit. Jose Iglesias, extra base hit. JD Martinez, extra base hit. I think this is the first time since 2002, Gary Cohen said that the Mets had 4+ extra base hits in the first inning. And Mr. Austin Gomber was not happy when he got back into that dugout. He was punching that cooler. That's what I love to see, this offense flustering opposing pitchers. I believe it was 8 to 9 extra base hits on the day. This is the offense that we have come to know and love during their hot stretch. And this is the offense that we know that they are capable of producing night in and night out. And that's where it becomes frustrating when they go into a little bit of like a downward spiral, especially in the playoff race. But at the end of the day, you cannot take the accolades that this Mets offense has under their belts.
Yeah.
They are a top 10 offense in the league for the entirety of 2024. Really proud of today's effort, man. I'm extremely proud of today's effort.
Yeah, and you know what? We put up a 9 spot with Martinez struggling, Nimmo not in the lineup. Like, it's the other guys too. We talk about Lindor and Nimmo and Martinez and those guys, but you know what? It was the struggling Alonso who came through. It was the struggling Vientos who came through. Tyron Taylor has been a godsend for this team. Bader has come through. Like, it's been a lot of the other guys as well. This is why when we were facing the Yankees and we were laughing that this Mets lineup was much better than the Yankees lineup, even still, it is. Like, yes, they might have the bigger names, but if you go through 1 through 9, the Mets have a better lineup than a lot of other teams in baseball. Look at it. You have to look at it. And this is what we were expecting from an offense. I wouldn't say to the level that they were in June, but I would say where they are right now, where they're still scoring around 5 runs per game or so, right? If you score, and I looked at this, I don't remember the exact numbers, but if you score around 5 runs or more per ball game on average, you're considered an elite offense. You're considered a playoff type of offense. Now, obviously, there's other factors, bullpen, starting pitching, of course. But when you get the quality starting pitching that this Mets team has consistently got over this whole season, and then the offense actually does what they're supposed to do, the Mets are a very hard team to beat. And now we're talking about a bullpen that has improved consistently over the last couple of weeks and are getting healthier. This team can finally have, because this team has not been healthy all around all season. If this team can get healthy all around for the last 50 so games, now we have a well-rounded team where I'm confident in anybody that we have to trust. If we need some pitching for this rotation, starting pitching come through, I am very confident in them. If I need offense to come through, I'm confident in them. If the bullpen comes in, I'm confident in them. When have we said that as Met fans with an entire team? Even in 2022, the problem that people talked about with the Mets offense in 2022 was the lack of power. They have that now. They have the power in this lineup, right? Not even just a situational hitting or just a clutch hitting. It's the power that they also have. So when we're a well-rounded team overall, the entire roster, it's a huge difference going into a ball game where I'm confident in every game this team plays because I know one of these are going to come through when we need them the most.
A couple of things, because this was the perfect segue to what I really want to talk about, and that was a question that I believe Christopher asked me under one of my videos. But before we talk about that, Patty and D are talking about Tyrone Taylor. Can we just show Tyrone Taylor some love, man? This guy has been swinging a tremendous bat. Tremendous. But something that really struck me, and I didn't really mention it on the pregame show, and I really wanted to, was the fact that Carlos Mendoza had Tyrone Taylor playing left field when he's been playing right field, right? And you think of like between right field and left field, if you guys don't know this, usually the stronger arm, the stronger outfielder in general, when it comes to skill, will play right field rather than left field. Your worst defender, and I'm not saying Brandon Nimmo is a bad defender by any stretch of the imagination, right? And that's why some people would like Starling Marte to play left field and Brandon Nimmo play right field when Starling Marte gets back. But generally, the rule of thumb is that the better defender goes to right field, which is why Tyrone Taylor, when he is playing, usually is in right field. But today, Mendoza switched it up, and he put Tyrone Taylor in left field and Jeff McNeil in right field. And guess where the Colorado Rockies just so happen to love hitting the ball today? Yep. Tyrone Taylor probably made 5+ catches in the gap that I am not confident at all in Jeff McNeil making. I'm sorry. This guy has been an absolute treasure on both sides of the ball. And when you think about him for what he really is and what he was brought in here to be as a fourth outfielder, just like David Peterson, this guy's exceeding expectations, Rob. There's not like I can't say enough good things about Tyrone Taylor. So I figured we might as well just do us some justice and go ahead and just call that out.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, I'm sorry.
I see MEZ will probably agree with me maybe 1 out of every 100 takes. This is why I
He never
said
used to agree with me ever.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone. Anyways.
So look, you're absolutely right. And look, this is another small thing that you're not going to see in the box score, that you're not going to see in a headline on a newspaper or a back page. It's another small thing that Mendoza tweaked a little bit, where he could have easily just went McNeil left field, Tyrone Taylor right field, and called it a day. This game could have been a lot closer if Tyrone Taylor wasn't playing left field today. All them balls that were hitting that deep left center field gap that Tyrone Taylor ran down, McNeil wouldn't run that down, and I'm not even confident Nimmo would have got to every one of those balls. Even though I think Nimmo is an elite left fielder, not an elite center fielder, I don't even think Nimmo would have been able to get to some of them balls that Tyrone Taylor do. So it's them little things, again, that when people want to criticize Mendoza, it's still the little things that I love about Carlos Mendoza. He could have easily just done the normal thing, like I just said, but he didn't. He might have looked at the advanced statistics, the advanced analytics a little bit, or he was just like, listen, Tyrone Taylor is a better outfielder than Jeff McNeil. Why not put him in left field where he has to patrol more ground? It could be just a gut decision. Could be very simple. And it's the little things that I didn't trust other managers that they would have done, where they just went with the status quo. No, Mendoza, when he sees something that he can fix, or at least try to fix pregame, he does it. The managers have control of basically nothing nowadays. In my opinion, I think Stearns is even evolving as a president of baseball or running of an organization, because David Stearns was very mechanical with his manager, who wanted to use analytics at every way possible. Something changed with David Stearns. Maybe it was with interviewing Mendoza for the managerial job. And Mendoza says, listen, I love to manage this team, but I'm not a puppet, as we see the guy in the Bronx is, right? I think Mendoza has more control over what goes on pregame than we're probably even giving him credit for. Because, you talked about it the other day, even though Brazovan gave up the home run, where Hefner kind of talked Mendoza into, hey, listen, we had a plan here, leave him in. It didn't work out. I feel like Mendoza has a lot more control in the dugout than we see a lot of other managers have. And that is something that you can even evolve as an executive of running a ball club as well. You don't have to be, just because he had success in Milwaukee doesn't mean you can't still evolve or get better running a team, running an organization. And that's kudos to Stearns, and given his rookie manager, by the way, he's a rookie manager, a lot more rope than you would see with other rookie managers in baseball. And that's kudos to Stearns and Mendoza.
And that's something that we're going to definitely talk about in the offseason. I don't really want to delve into it right now in terms of like, if the Mets are going to bring in a GM, I don't know what role they're really going to have to be as an intermediary from David Stearns all the way down to Mendoza in this ball club. But when that bridge comes here and when we cross it, we can talk about it, obviously, in this 2025 offseason. By the way, I know we're in this 2024 season, and we're looking at today and now, and then obviously tomorrow. But this offseason is going to be a hell of a ride. And I also just can't wait to come up on here and talk Mets baseball during the offseason, hopefully after a deep playoff run. But yeah, no, guys, like I said, I don't think we stopped to do like a little promo, and I'm sure you guys as viewers are happy about that. But please, if you're on Rob's stream, hit the thumbs up. If you're on my stream, hit the thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe to both channels. I feel like a lot of you all, maybe 99.5% of you all, are subscribed to both channels. But if you're not, make sure you go ahead and subscribe and hit those thumbs up.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. And Chris, promoting, we try to not overload it, but the important thing that I don't think a lot of people realize, you can share the stream and share it on your social media pages, where you might have a friend who's a baseball fan, maybe not even a Mets fan, or even Mets fan, that doesn't know about the channel, or is not crazy on YouTube and might want to check it out, because it's important to grow the channel and grow our channel and stuff like that.
100%.
Because look, we love doing this stuff. If we hated this, we wouldn't be doing this. Negative games, a bad team, good team, we love talking about it. So yeah, hell yeah, promote the hell out of this, both of our channels. But listen, guys, we got to get CP to 1,000. That's the idea here. This is the idea right here, right? So share on your social media pages, everywhere. Let everybody know about CP, because we got to get him to 1,000, because he does great work. Listen, he don't need me here to do great work. I tell you that much. So make sure you do what you got to do, guys, because we have a job to bullshit our way through streams, either negative or positively. But your job, guys, in the chat is to help us grow, because we can't do this without you. So just to be clear about that. So
no, 100%.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. 1,000 subscribers, like that has been my goal for the longest time. I will be doing a giveaway, by the way, when I hit 900 subscribers. So please be on the lookout. I will be doing a giveaway, and it might just include a free jersey to a random subscriber of my channel. So yeah, stay on the lookout for that. But yeah, guys, Giants football tonight. Jalen Brunson just got named honorary captain. I can't wait to talk Knicks basketball, like I'm seeing in the chat here. And the New York Mets are absolutely up. One question that I wanted to segue into, right, as we're just about 47 minutes, maybe, 47 minutes onto the stream. We started at 6 on the dot. But we have a matchup today involving an NL wildcard team and the Arizona Diamondbacks that are playing the Philadelphia Phillies. 7.5 games back of the division right now. If the Phillies lose tonight, you can go to 7 games back if you're the New York Mets. I received the question from Christopher under one of my posts. Who would you rather see win this series? And bias aside, division rivals aside, I'm going to sit here and agree with you, Rob, because I know you said this a couple of days ago. The Philadelphia Phillies, it's not impossible to catch them for this division lead. It's 100% doable, actually, especially when you look at the strength of schedule and the ease of it for the New York Mets, provided they get better at beating sub-500 teams.
Yeah.
So what is your take on this? I said I'd love to see the Diamondbacks win, because if the Mets keep winning, they're still within striking distance. But at this case, you can make up ground in that NL East division. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I always want to win a division. Like, obviously, like, your goal as a fan, as a player, is to win the division, right? You get that nice banner, it's awesome, right? You're one of the better teams in the National League. It's great. It's great. But what I'm looking at now is my easiest road to the playoffs, right? For a team that 95% of the fan base thought was a transition year, and they weren't even trying, and they were going to be quote unquote competitive and win 75 games. I'm looking for the easy road to the playoffs. So I'm going for the Phillies against the Diamondbacks. And the reason why I say that, listen, I don't want to root for the Phillies, right? I can't stand the Phillies. I hope they fall apart at every moment. But for these 3 games, I want the Phillies to win. I want them to sweep the Diamondbacks. Why? Because if we win and do our job, and the Phillies win, we gain games on the Diamondbacks. We stay within 7.5 games of the Phillies. Say the Phillies sweep the Diamondbacks, the Mets win 3 in a row. We stay within 7.5 games of the Phillies. We gain 3 games on the Diamondbacks. We jump over the Diamondbacks, and we got about 47 games after that point of baseball, where I still believe the Mets can still catch up to the Phillies, because we still got a few games with the Phillies left. And with the Mets still trying to get a playoff spot, I think if you just keep on winning games, it's going to get to the point where we're going to talk about, a division. Because I said this. I said the Mets are going to catch the Phillies in September. And I've said that about 2 weeks ago, maybe, when they were about 8 games or so within a division. I feel like the Phillies have been coming back down to earth a little bit. They've been still playing good baseball, but they've been struggling a bit, where the Mets have been playing good baseball. All I keep on talking about was 17 to go. And the Mets were had to deal with that nonsense and choke a division away with 17 to play. I'm not saying the Phillies will, but the way I've seen the playoffs work out over the last couple of seasons, where wildcard teams have been getting the advantage because they've been playing hard the entire season and the back end of the season, where they have to work their way to a playoff spot, and they just are going into it with a lot of momentum, where I think division winners kind of coast into the playoffs and it hurts them going into the playoffs. I still would like the division, but right now, at least in these 3 games, I want the Phillies to sweep the Diamondbacks. Because if the Mets do their job, we don't lose ground on the Phillies and we gain ground on the Diamondbacks. So you still get the best of both worlds. I think if the Diamondbacks say sweep the Phillies, yeah, we might get a couple of games closer to the Phillies, but I still feel like it's a tougher road to the division when all you got to do now in baseball is make the playoffs and anybody can win. At least that's just my opinion.
No, I agree with you 100%. Especially, listen, I'm just going to say this right now with the teams that the New York Mets are currently chasing for this NL wild card. The Arizona Diamondbacks, going back when we predicted the Mets winning 87 games for you, 85 games for me in the preseason, we had completely different views. I'm not sure if you remember this. We had completely different views on the Diamondbacks and how successful they were going to be this season. I predicted the Diamondbacks were going to get one of those wild card spots. I think you did too, maybe. I had to actually look at what the preseason ranks were, but nonetheless, I knew that they were going to be a dangerous team, and you think that they were going to take a step back. You thought they were going to take a step back just a little bit in this season, if I remember it correctly. Mm-hmm. They had a tremendous offseason, first and foremost, but also a tremendous deadline. So the Diamondbacks, it looks like they're not going to be losing many ball games to close out this season. I'm more worried about the Diamondbacks and not catching up to them than I'm worried about not catching up to the Padres, because I'm not really worried about the Padres. And at this point, I'm not really worried about the Braves. And I 100% agree with you in that fact is that, but for me, though, is like if the Mets do their job and they keep winning games and they keep on pace with the Diamondbacks over the next, let's say, week, then it doesn't really hurt you if the Diamondbacks allow the Mets to cut into that NL East lead. That's my thinking. But the Mets have to do their part and win games, because if the Diamondbacks win, right, and I'm holding true to what I'm saying right now, and the Mets lose, obviously that doesn't bode well for the Mets. So that's my aspect. Take care of what you're supposed to take care of. You will see the Diamondbacks as well at the end of this month, and hopefully you can take advantage. But I do think with you, and I know that you were the originator of this idea in the Mets catching up to the Phillies. I really do think that if the Diamondbacks, on the flip side, could sweep the Phillies, that could go a long way in allowing the Mets not only to maintain pace in the NL wildcard, but drawing that much closer to an NL East division lead, especially with the Braves looking like they're not going to take that division lead at all. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Well, but anyways, this is a win-win situation at the end of the day. We have to acknowledge that. This is a win-win situation.
I was just going to say that. It's a win-win situation because we're going to gain. If the Mets do their job, they're going to gain on somebody. Somebody's got to lose, right? And, I guess you could – look, any way it can benefit the Mets, regardless of who do you want to win or who's going to win, right? You want one team to dominate. Right? You want one team to dominate because it's going to really hurt that team that gets their ass kicked in this series. And, the Phillies have been playing, but they took 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. And by the way, we might not be talking about the Dodgers. I mean, the Padres or the Diamondbacks for a wild card. We might be talking about the Dodgers for a wild card because the Padres are
back. The Padres are, right?
Yeah. And, the Dodgers haven't been playing well. And I've said this all along. The Dodgers are not as good as everybody talks about. They are very flawed. Their starting pitching is not that good. Their lineup, 5 through 9, is absolutely garbage. Their bullpen's pretty good. But they're not a all-around team that everybody thought they were going to be. If you get past the first 4 guys in the lineup, which obviously it's easier said than done, but we talked about this with the Yankees, where they're like a 2-man show, and after that, it's kind of easy to get through them. The Dodgers are very similar. If you don't let the other guys beat you in the lineup, you got 5 through 9 that you can take care of. And look, I see it like this. Mets, continue to do your job, win ball games, and a playoff spot is going to come for you. Where that is, 1, 2, 3 wild card or the division, I think the Mets are in a really good spot right now as long as they keep on winning ball games.
But I will also say as well is that during this stretch, just speaking about the Diamondbacks versus the Phillies, is that what Daniel brings up is a great point. The Cardinals are a hot baseball team, and so are the Giants, and they are not too far back as well from the Braves, as well as the Braves, right behind the Mets for that wild card. So the division or the NL wild card race is going to be a tight bunch no matter how you draw it up and no matter how this series goes. So at the very minimum, I would love to gain ground and cut it to 6, maybe even 5 games if we take the series against the Seattle Mariners into this division and then go from there. Like I said, this is a win-win, so you can draw it up and really you don't lose at the end of the day unless you lose the series to the Mariners. But this is all dependent on the Mets continuing to win and building off of this 9-1 victory. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the other thing, too, that we both didn't bring up was that the fact, we're talking about the Padres and the Diamondbacks. You just said about the Giants. There's 4 teams, if you want to include the Dodgers, that play each other a lot in the West over the next month and a half. Somebody's going to beat up on each other. So you're going to gain on a couple of teams in the West just based on them playing each other, and somebody's got to lose. So the Mets have that opportunity as well, where they're going to beat up on each other. The Mets got the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Padres later this month where they can do their damage. Like I said, when you face a team that you're either chasing or you're or they're behind you, when you beat that team, it's like 2 games. You get a game in the game and a win and a loss column. So the Mets are in a prime spot right now from where they put themselves. Not only do they got a couple more games with the Phillies, they got teams that they're chasing over the next couple of weeks. They got a Mariners team that offense has not been good. Again, anybody can win at any given moment in baseball. But the Mets pitching has been really good. The Mets offense is going to have a tough time against this pitching staff of the Mariners, who got a good bullpen and a rotation. But if you take care of business and win 2 out of 3 against the Mariners, you come back home and play Oakland. I know Oakland has had games where they've beaten up the Phillies. They've been scoring their offense have been scoring a decent amount of runs. But you should take care of the Oakland A's at home. And when you get the Oakland A's at home and take care of it, you got a 9-game homestand. It's the only homestand of the month. You need a very good homestand, because when you get back on the road, back on the West Coast, you got to take care of business. And when you get to September and you're right in the spot where the Mets could be, possibly much closer to the Phillies or in a prime spot of the wild card, you got 1 month to determine if this team's going to be a playoff team. And listen, they played 115 games, right? What is it, 51 games? I can't even do math, but they got around 51 games to go, right? What is it going to take to make a wild card spot? I'm thinking probably 84, 85 wins might get you a 3rd wild card spot. I'm assuming that's where it's going to be. Maybe 86, but I'm going to go with 84, 85. So if you look at it, that's 23, 24 more games out of your next 50. So the Mets, if they're a 500 team and they go 25-25, say, right? That is what? 80.
This is the math. This is the math, 80, Rob. 47 games left. Today was game 115 of 162. So you got 47 left.
Okay. So say if they go 24-23, right? That's 47, right? Okay. 24-23, right? That is 85 wins. So that's only 1 game over 500. If you play 3 games over 500, 4 games over 500, you're talking closer to 90 wins. So they don't even have to play great baseball they can play solid baseball and have 86, 87 wins, possibly closer to 90 if they play even better. So they put themselves in a great spot. And this is why I'm excited for the last month and a half of the season, because they're in a prime position to do what they need to do to make a playoffs position, where something that a lot of Met fans didn't believe in it.
As crazy as it sounds, the difference between my season win total prediction at 85 and your season win total prediction at 87 could make the difference of making the playoffs versus not making the playoffs.
Who would have thought that, right? Who would have thought that?
That's insane. That's insane.
And we believed, man. We talked this team up all season, and it's not even the same roster we were talking about. And we were
not
talking
at all.
Not at all. We were literally 85 and 87 wins. I mean, we in our season preview, we got laughed to the high heavens, man. And you know what? It's not even about giving us credit. It's just that I'm a little disappointed in a lot of Met fans for not believing in this team a little bit more. And I'm not talking about 85, 87 wins, but being closer to a playoff team than a lot of people thought. It's a little frustrating, but you know what? All it is now is that this team, this core, that even though we had our win total to start the season, we still didn't believe in this core enough. And they've kind of won me over a little bit more. Now, I'm not sure at the end of the season we can have a conversation about Alonso or whatever, but right now, the three main core guys in Lindor, Nimmo, and I'm assuming you have to throw McNeil in there a little bit because he does have a contract with this team still, right? They've been, for the most part, doing their jobs, and Lindor has just been amazing in the leadoff spot. I mean, Cleveland type of Lindor. And Nimmo, I know he's came back to earth a little bit, but he's still been damn good. McNeil has shown after the All-Star break where we always thought where maybe he actually could be a hitter again, and he's looking like that again. But to go back to Alonso one more time, if we're going to end this stream just now, Pete Alonso, 47 games left. Thank you for doing the math that I cannot do. 47 games. If he has a stretch of a month of carrying this ball club and putting the at-bats together like he had today, this team, I'm going to put it out there. Maybe it's going to hurt me later on. This team is almost going to be unstoppable. Because having a team with 61 wins, with not the presence of the Alonso's stats that he had in his previous seasons as a Met, is going to be very dangerous to deal with for opposing teams. That's just my take on my final take of this stream. This team is going to be dangerous if Pete Alonso could do it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. And if you take a look at that, and shout out to Darren as well, saying that the Mets are doing all this even without Kodai Senga as well in this rotation, which is kind of crazy to think about. And that's thanks to the resurgence of Mr. Sean Manaea, who I dropped the video on. Like I said, I went into some mechanical adjustments and tweaks that he was making. He's trying to emulate Chris Sale. They're saying it on the broadcast. Make sure you check out that video. I'm going to be talking about that video on the Subway to Shea podcast today at 9 p.m. So make sure you go tune into that. But 100%, Rob, I agree with you. This team, at their peak, can be unstoppable. They can be unstoppable. Shout out to Hector, by the way, as well. They can be unstoppable. And like I said, this comes back to me saying that they are top 10 offense. The rotation has held its own. This is me standing on 10 toes, regardless of what MEZ or anybody else is saying that this bullpen is elite. Like, this roster on paper, there's no reason why they should not be a playoff team. Whether it's the division or whether it's a wild card spot, 1, 2, or 3, it does not matter. There's no reason why they should not be a playoff team. Do everything in your power to be that playoff team. And that's what I'm ending the stream off, because this is a playoff team. And if they do not get there, I will be disappointed. Regardless of what the expectations were set at this season or beginning of this season, it doesn't matter at this point. This roster should be a playoff team. It's going to be a wild, wild ride, Rob, between now in the end of September. Let's buckle up for it.
And listen, as a Mets fan base that didn't believe in this team coming in and probably are still, I guess, more are believing in this team, you got a playoff race. You got a playoff race for the rest of the season. Enjoy it. Even if it ends badly, it was probably more of an enjoyable season than anybody probably could have thought of. But if they do make the playoffs, aren't we playing with house money at this point? On a season that was supposed to be a transition year? I mean, people like me, you, and probably Hector, who probably thought a little bit highly of this team more than a lot of Mets fans, we're playing with house money if we make the playoffs. Enjoy it. Yes, you're going to get nervous by every pitch, every at-bat, but enjoy it. You got 47 games to go. Let's finish the job and make the playoffs and then start doing some damage in the playoffs. So, guys, with that said, we're off to Seattle. And, yes, I know everybody's talking about the no hat that I don't have. For some reason, I traveled without no hat. I don't get it. I drove up to New York, have everything that I need except for hats for streams. So, unfortunately, you'll get my balding head. Unfortunately, that's
I'll lend
okay.
you mine, Rob, to the screen. Here you go, buddy. Here you go.
Appreciate it. Yeah, you'll get my balding head, and it's mostly associated with the Mets because I'm balding. So, with that said, Chris, it's been a great stream, a long stream, but an important stream because we haven't done a lot of this over the last month together. So, it's great news for the Mets. We win a series against the Rockies. Let's take care of business in Seattle before we head home. With that said, Chris, great stream as always. Mets win 9-1, 7 games over 500. Let's finish our West Coast trip and head back home on a positive note. Everybody have a great night. Let's go Mets, and we'll see you next time, guys. Have a great night.
Let's go Mets.